Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. Most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by The Plain Truth and Arwin. How are you both doing?
Doing well.
Good to have you.
Good afternoon. Riley was here, but he left.
Yeah, he's showing us offline on Skype, so I think he might have a PC problem. He's probably just restarting or something along those lines. May as well do housekeeping anyway. Any signs of curvature, you two?
When I was checking my confirmation for my flight to California, the flight path was curved on the app, so I think that's curvature.
That's proof right there. That is. That's
definitive.
As it gets.
They were showing us that the plane was going to fly in a curved path.
Was it depicted on a globe by any chance?
The scale was too small. It was just the U.S.
Ah, fair enough. Well, that may be something we need to look into. Thank you for that. You're making a load of popping and wind on your mic. I think you're just a bit too close to it, Arwin. Any signs of axial rotation? Anybody?
I muted because the wind is blowing and I didn't want it to give you guys feedback, so I'm going to mute.
Oh, it could be you then, not Arwin. My bad.
Yeah, always blaming me, aren't you?
I am. It's because you're never ever on mute, so I can automatically blame you.
That is true. But yeah, you know what I like to do? Like to jump in there and be very loud and as quickly as possible refute some kind of argument.
You're poised for the row.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a hit and run kind of argumentative guy.
So, what about you, Arwin? Any signs of axial rotation in the last 24 hours?
Well,
no,
no, not on the Earth anyway.
Pressurized system next to a vacuum? Any signs of that?
But definitely not. The only way to get that is to imagine it.
Any scientific evidence of R on the horizon?
I heard this new chant.
Let's hear it.
Okay. But again, oh yeah. Radio Sanctus Gravitas Dominus.
Radio Sanctus Gravitus Dominus. Amen. I love it. In R we trust.
That is awesome.
I liked it when you did it yesterday. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, also I really liked Riley's video yesterday.
Yeah, I got mentioning it.
I don't think he literally said it in the video, but I did post it. So. I think I probably inspired him to do that.
Oh, definitely. I think he actually got sent it. It wasn't him that wrote it, from what I understand. It was somebody that sent it him on Facebook. And then he just read it out with some stills of various different ballers and critiques of them on their like page screen grab. Talk of the Devil, how you doing, Sleeping Warrior?
Yo.
Good to have you.
All good?
Yeah.
We're live.
We are live. Just polishing off the housekeeping. So, any signs of a self-perpetuating molten iron core?
Paul Voigt claims that he's got evidence for that. He's doubled down recently. Looking forward to seeing that, Paul. Why don't you come in and present it? Are you too scared? Coward.
And we've got a new addition to the housekeeping as of yesterday, which is any scientific evidence of gravity.
Yeah, I was going to say Al K, Al GCSE physics. He's the one that's got the task of distinguishing or contrasting density over gravity, and of course he can't do it because the definition of gravity, as per Newton, is that it's the attractive force between masses. And if you believe that there's an attractive force between the Earth and the object that you're about to let go of, the only way to prove it will be to get a bigger Earth and bring it into proximity relative to our Earth and show that the spanner that you drop can go up.
By up, you mean towards the other mass, the other planet that's been brought into close
the other
proximity?
planet that you bring in close proximity.
Of course, because that's...
Moon should suck up a great portion of the atmosphere every time it passes.
Well, if the moon can cause all the oceans of the world to move, then there should be a difference in weight when the moon passes overhead to when the moon's not there. So you should be able to weigh a wrench without the moon, weigh a wrench with the moon, and then see a difference.
Trampoline jumping when the moon's out.
Pardon?
Just go trampoline jumping when the moon's out and see if you jump higher than usual.
Okay, I'll take that as a no.
No.
Yes, you're genuinely proposing, Arwin, that a baller should go out and prove that the gravitational pull of the moon does actually affect a trampoline bounce. Maybe you are putting that forward.
Oh yeah, giving them something to do to reinforce their religious beliefs.
You missed Arwin doing the chanting, Anthony. You'll have to go back and have a listen. Not that you can rewind this show. Very intentionally has no PVR function, just in case something goes disastrously wrong or something gets displayed that shouldn't be. So that's it. That concludes the housekeeping. No proof of anything heliocentric related, unfortunately, for those people who are believers. You are simply religiously indoctrinated.
There is one bit of housekeeping that's a footnote.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember belief is a thief?
Do.
I can't remember exactly what his issue was, but we called him out on it because he was basically saying something like, if the Earth was, I think it was something like, because the Earth's spherical, but the way we see it as flat, therefore it's still a sphere, but it's flat. Something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but whatever it was, we called him out on it because I didn't agree with him. And, well, that was basically it. We called him out, but he was supposed to be a flat earther, but he was arguing for the ball on a point that I just didn't agree with him on. So we got called out because of it. And then that was the end of that one. But the point was we called him out on it, and he claims to be a flat earther, which I don't actually think he is, but we called him out nonetheless. Then we hear about the Flat Earth Society claiming that flat earthers think that there is no such thing as Australia, which I don't know any flat earther that thinks there's no such thing as Australia. The issue is, where is it?
Really? The Flat Earth Society actually
I
embraced that?
so. I believe it came originally from the Flat Earth Society.
No, I think it was just a joke tweet by somebody random. But
well, wherever
it could
it
be
came
that they actually latched onto that because it is so ridiculous.
Well, whatever the ins and outs of it are, who cares? Nobody really believes it. Somebody might have asked it at some point, and it's been taken out of context by a baller that's been misrepresenting them. Probably Sean Hufford. But as far as I know, no baller or no flat earther has ever claimed or believed honestly that Australia is not in actual existence. It's a ridiculous claim. But equal to that claim is another one that's doing the rounds recently, which is water is not made from hydrogen or oxygen. Now I'll start from the start, and I'll state clearly that I do not know whether it is or is not. I do believe it, but that doesn't make it true. I do not have any knowledge on chemistry. Of the three sciences, it was my weakest one, and I'm not proclaiming in any way to be an authority on the issue whatsoever. What I am saying is it's one of those claims that makes us all look stupid, because people think that flat earthers think that water's not made of hydrogen and oxygen because somebody's come up with the claim. Now, nobody really knows whether it is or isn't. It's an interesting topic, and it's one that we can all look at and raise an eyebrow. Do we assert it to be true? No. Does anybody in Flat Earth assert it to be true? Yes. There appears to be a group called, is it Dave and Davey, or Mike and Mikey, or something like that? I don't know who they are, but they're claiming it, and Sheeps and Neeps is pushing it. And I don't know whether it's right or wrong. Pardon?
It's Peter and Pete.
Yeah, the Peter and Pete show, right? Well, I don't know whether it's right or wrong, but Sheeps is pushing it. People think that because he's a flat earther, he thinks that they think that we are all thinking that there's no such thing as hydrogen or oxygen in water, because Sheeps is pushing it. And I don't know whether he is right or not, but I want to find out, because if he's wrong, it needs to be stopped straight away, because it's a ridiculous claim that nobody really thinks is true. There's no reason to think that there's not hydrogen and oxygen in water. But if he's right, then we'll pat him on the back and we'll say, hey, buddy, there's the pint. Well done.
Let me spare you the trouble and say that is absolutely ridiculous. It is definitely hydrogen and oxygen, and I have done basic chemistry in school, and that was pretty, I've even done it like in my garage early on.
To be honest,
I was also very much into chemistry. Hydrogen is a thing, oxygen, it definitely is a thing, and the gas divides itself in the exact proportions as suggested, with the properties suggested.
I'm not against that. I'm happy to accept and believe that what you've just said is true. I'm not saying that he's wrong, but what I'm saying is, if he's wrong, he's damaging us all, because people look at him and think that flat earthers think that hydrogen and oxygen are not constituent elements to water. He's claiming that water's an element, and I don't agree with him. I think it's obvious that it is, and I think he's got a misunderstanding. And I'm not going to get into it because I don't want to set the standard, the bar, because I'm not into chemistry. It doesn't really interest me. But there are ballers out there that are. So I'm thinking that GCSE and A-level science guy, Al, he's somebody that could probably deal with this. If not Al, Geo Strieber. If anybody knows Geo Strieber, or I have emailed him and asked him to get this dealt with, because it is making us look silly if it's wrong.
Yeah, it is. It is wrong. Let me really please spare you the speculation about it. Water is not an element. It is a molecule. It consists of two atom types, hydrogen and oxygen. And you can, with electrolytes, with electricity rods, you can basically split it apart if there's a proper conductor material within the water, split it apart into the gases. And then if you combine these gases, you can use either to burn them up. If you do, it's really explosive, so don't just try that outright. It is one of the most explosive gases combinations that exist. It's like detonation level explosions, very dangerous. But yeah, once the explosion or the reaction is resolved, water vapor appears in its place.
Well, I know I've just released, by coincidence, it's ended up going live at the exact same time that Nathan starts, but also at the exact same time that he's live. So right now I know he's dealing with this, or he's dealing with my video anyway. And I know the way he'll deal with it. He'll be extremely aggressive, and he'll dismiss it or attack it based on whatever preconceptions he's got, because he thinks that I'm a gatekeeper. He also thinks that Nathan's involved in this in some way, and let me just for the record say that Nathan's got absolutely nothing to do with this whatsoever.
To do with what?
What
have I got something to do with?
Maybe you should ask Nathan.
He thinks Sheeps and Neeps thinks that this has got something to do with you.
What's this though? Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. What's this?
Sorry, this being the point in question. Right, what I'm trying to do is get this point dealt with quickly, because if it's not dealt with quickly and it's allowed to rumble on without somebody noticing it and pricking up their ears, what it does is it gets out to a lot of people that then think that flat earthers are basically pushing the idea that water is not made of hydrogen and oxygen, and I don't know anybody that pushes this apart from Sheeps and Neeps and the show, whatever that show was.
Okay, I've got a question then. So the other day someone came on, I think it was Jimbo, or I forget who, I'll credit them if I remember them, but they were pointing out the potential jet fuel hoax. And my question to them was, well, what does this have to do with flat Earth? And they went through linking it back to the general control structure that we live under, and the fakeness of scarcity that is linked directly to flat Earth, in my opinion, in terms of the control structure that we live in. And I mean, okay, fair enough. That's, it is related, and I can see how. Whether or not I believe it is irrelevant, but yeah, it's a fair point to bring up. However, with H2O, why would it be the case that I don't see the point. If I was to say that water is not hydrogen and oxygen, but actually selenium and oxygen. Well,
what he's saying, Nathan, is he's saying it's an element in its own right. He's saying that it's actually aqua, and it's neither got two. It doesn't have two elements to it. It's one element in itself, and his basis for doing it is that it doesn't you can't pass a current through it at the same voltage to get you can't decompose it at the same voltage that you can when it's got pollutants in it. Now, I think that, I might be wrong, and I'm not professing to be, so don't quote me on this, but it appears to be the case that when you electrolyze it with voltage, when it's got contaminants in it, it's more, we know that it
conductive.
Yeah,
it is true. That is true.
Yeah.
That is why salt water conducts really well.
But so what?
Perfectly clear water doesn't really.
But I don't get it.
It's not a good isolator either. It just doesn't conduct electricity as well if it is unpolluted, if there's nothing dissolved within it.
Okay, I get all of that, but who cares? Literally, what is the point of this conspiracy? Who cares if it was true or if it's not true? What difference does it make to anybody's lives? What's the? I don't get the point. So okay, it conducts more electricity if it's something rather than something else. What? I don't get it.
The point is that if he's wrong, those that think that flat Earth is ridiculous anyway will now label us with, we don't even think water's made of hydrogen and oxygen. Now, we're all being labelled with his assertion that it's not true.
No, I get that
too.
I don't
want to be part of that.
That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. Whenever somebody puts something forward, you kind of ask yourself, well, what's in it for you? What's the purpose of this? If you're right, what are the implications? So if he's right, let's just entertain it for a second. So water is not actually 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. Well, okay, let's just accept that and say, okay, fine, it's aqua. Well, so what?
Well, it's going to derail the foundations of chemistry, which is one of the physical sciences that I can call sciences because it is extremely precise and well defined. It is one of the more reliable regions of science that humanity has developed in the last centuries. So it sounds to me like it's basically an attempt to derail the knowledge in some kind of mystical hope to find the philosopher's stone, to re-engage into a new form of chemistry and find the hidden things. But it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to try something like this.
His qualification for it was that he brought you into this, which he really shouldn't have done, but I can see why he did it. But he basically suggested that I'm only interested in this because we're running out of content on the show, and I've got nothing to do with it, and I should keep my nose out of it. Well, whether we're running out of content on the show or not is irrelevant, and I agree I shouldn't have my nose in it, but I think that we need to address it quickly because if he's wrong, he's making us all look stupid. Well, he thinks he's right. So it's a case of, right, he's obviously got a mistaken perception based on something, and it needs a better man than I to get this dealt with. But whilst he's spouting his nonsense off, which I call nonsense, he's influencing people in his chat to make them think the possibility that this might be wrong, which is dodgy because it's not based on something that's credible, in my opinion, and it needs to be addressed. But he's pissed off because he thinks that the only reason I've got involved is to act as a gatekeeper. No, I'm interested in what's true and what's not true, what's evidently provable and what's conjecture. And I'm pretty certain that water is made of hydrogen and oxygen, but he thinks I'm a gatekeeper, and I'm not. I'm just saying this doesn't seem to be a strong claim. If it's true, it'll stand up on its own 2 feet. If it's not true, then it'll be pulled apart quickly. But because it's an echo, because he acts as an echo chamber in that he says that we shouldn't even be talking to people like GCSE and A-level science because these are the enemy, and I don't agree. we need to be talking to these people
Exactly,
to find
that's
out
what I
the
thought.
weaknesses in our own arguments, but also expose the holes in their own evidence that they accept and believe to be true, but show the holes, like why gyroscopes don't spin at 15 degrees an hour when they should do, and things like that. So he's created an echo chamber because he says we shouldn't be talking to them. But in not talking to these people, we don't learn whether we're right or wrong or not. And I think he needs to learn whether he's right or wrong. And if he's right, then I'll pat him on the back and say, well done, there's a pint, thanks. But if he's wrong, I'll say, drop it quick, because you're making us look stupid.
Well said. I
Okay.
agree with you.
I still don't get it. I still really don't get it at all.
It sounds like just an attention grab, pretty much to me.
Yeah.
He wants attention. He wants to be original, so he's going to try to derail a new area of science. It's absolutely idiotic to try something like this
got nothing to
because
do with flat
it is
Earth.
so well defined. Just
It's got nothing to do with flat Earth. I don't know why he's bringing it up, and I'd encourage him to stay on topics that he knows somewhat about, like flat Earth. Now, I mean, I don't really listen to Sheeps and Neeps because he's too aggressive. But that being said, he's on my side. We're on the same side. But on this particular topic, we're absolutely not. Whether the Earth's flat or not has got no relevance whatsoever to water. But because he's flat Earth and he's pushing it as truth,
I
it makes us
disagree,
look
though.
bad.
Haha, I disagree. Now, flat Earth definitely has something to do with water. Water is one of the predominant elements, predominant molecules that exist within the confines of this world. There are mysteries still to be solved involving water. The chemical composition of it, however, is not one of those mysteries. Very much not.
I agree. So all I'm doing,
The
really
water
is-
beneath the water divided from the waters, from that one, the mysterious pure water sources that are supposedly very deep beneath the earth, the rumor of the water that is supposedly outside of the dome. Water is very much involved in the cosmogonical concept of flat earth.
Sure, but what I'm trying to do is raise awareness to that there's an issue with a claim that seems to be outrageous, which if it's true, we'll buy him a drink and pat him on the back and say, well done. But at the end of the day, it's probably not. And it needs to be addressed quickly because it's making us look stupid. Because that Australia one's only just going away now. It seems to have been dying down.
Don't attract it to you. It doesn't make you look stupid. You don't need anything to do that.
Yeah, but it makes us look stupid, though.
No, it doesn't. It only makes us look stupid if we're going to take it serious. It's a sign of idiocy. And yeah, just because somebody is a flat earther, because somebody disbelieves the ball, doesn't mean they're actually smart. Doesn't mean they are always right. Absolutely not. A lot of people can't handle flat Earth, and they will dwell into the most ludicrous concepts.
Yeah, but Arwen, he's not asking the
It
question.
is absolutely real. So
He's not asking a question, though. He's pushing it as a fact because he keeps using the word facts, this and facts, and these all may well be valid points in some part of the discussion. But at the end of the day, he's pushing it as an absolute fact that this cannot be the case. He's given his reasons for it, and I don't really understand them. And I'm not really going to view it based on anything. I'm not going to research it myself. I'm going to ask people that do know about it, and I'm pretty certain that most of us accept that H2O is H2O, made of hydrogen and oxygen, right? But he says not, and his reason basically seems to be that you can't electrolyze it with voltage. And what it seems to be the case is that you just need more voltage because there's not pollutants in it that are more conductive.
Yeah, but then apparently he doesn't really understand the abilities of chemistry. Like,
sure.
Some things are conduct electricity and other types of molecules do not. The salts, mostly salts and metals, they are the conductive things. They actually conduct electricity. Regular molecules rarely do on its own. That is why water needs salts to be dissolved within it to be able to conduct electricity properly. Who's this?
Eric.
Hey, Eric. Can you hear us?
Seems to be there but not speaking.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
good that I retook an online school course for chemistry to freshen up my memory about the basic properties of the elements, and this is very, very clearly defined and very
easily
precisely tested these basic properties of the different molecules and the salts. It's extremely well defined.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain he's got it wrong. But I mean,
Yeah, he
I'm not
does.
going to pick the fight, but I am going to try and get it dealt with quickly because I think that it does damage us generally, and we don't need it. There's enough like stuff that we're questioning anyway. That this is one of them that we don't really need
Well,
to.
how do you propose to deal with it if you're not going to ignore it and you're not going to pick a fight? You're going to have to do either one or just
No,
No?
I can raise awareness by asking people like Geo Strieber, who's a chemist, or a GCSE physics guy, who's physics guy. We can ask these people to deal with this and present the evidence that he should accept and get the matter dealt with, because I don't think it's that hard to prove, but I just can't do it myself. So,
Just on a different note, have one of you got Pete blocked? You can't join apparently, and there's only
why have I got who blocked?
Pete Shea.
I don't.
Owen?
Arwin might have.
Me? I don't think so. He's not in my block list.
Doesn't look like it. Pete Shea says he's trying to join, and someone it says one person on the panel has you blocked. So, hey ho. Sorry, Pete, not
I
me,
didn't
mate.
see
Don't know what it
Pete
is.
come in. I didn't snipe him or anything, so.
Unless one of you has blocked one of the snipers, and it's actually Pete Shea.
Well, not Pete Shea's account, that's for sure. Maybe I sniped his troll account. No, it was just the no Flat Earth cult troll and Jim Benson, the typical standard trolls. Didn't see Pete.
I think the new guy might just be placeholding.
Yeah.
Joined with his camera on and then immediately disappeared, so I assume he's just listening to the conversation and filling a gap.
There's a guinea pig in the back.
Could be. It could be that Pete's actually blocked one of you.
I don't have Pete. I don't have Agent Shea blocked.
It's called something else. What's he called? Where is it? Pete Shea
Aristarchus
Encore.
show.
Pete Shea Encore. Anyway.
No, I don't have him blocked. It must be Arwin, surely.
Me? Why? Why me? I didn't do it.
Well, I'm assuming that Eric's not, and there's only me and you in the call. Let me just check mine, see if it is
Travis
me.
as well. Travis is quiet. Anyway, not very flat earthy.
I'm on my phone, so I don't even know how to block anybody.
What's the name of the account? Pete Shea Online, did you say?
Pete Shea Encore.
Are you sure he's not just having a laugh at us right now?
Probably some explanation somewhere. I have no idea.
There it is, community. Community settings, is that right?
I don't know. I've never blocked anybody.
Pete Shea Encore. Right, they're mods. Hidden users. Let's have a look. A lot of people in here.
Oh, damn. He was going to join and talk about water.
Yeah. I've already got an idea what he's going to say about it.
Who's going to join about water?
Pete Shea.
I don't have him blocked. I don't see him in the block list.
Oh, well.
Pete, go back onto your normal channel. Or is that blocked everywhere too?
few ballers in the chat. The link is public if anybody wants to join. A few people saying bally stuff.
We haven't seen No for a while. Shout out to No the troll that tries to snipe us all.
Oh, I boosted him. He's already been in once.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Too fast.
Oh.
I was just too
Sorry, I
quick for
haven't
you.
seen him.
Jimbo says I would join, but it's hard to get 2 sentences out. Well, actually, Jimbo, I was going to suggest you did, because you've been, again, like Pete, talking about water in the chat, and it sounded like you were agreeing with sheeps and neeps. So I'd love to hear your opinion because I don't get this, and if you do, I want to hear about it because I don't understand it. This is all brand new to me.
Yeah, I want to hear the argument as well because I don't really understand the argument in favor of the argument at all. And if there is somebody that understands it, then like come in. Because to be honest, if sheeps and neeps can't explain anything, he shouts, and I don't listen when he shouts.
Well, look, I could even theoretically entertain the idea.
We don't need theoreticals. We need
No,
the
why not? Why not? Why could we
don't
not?
need theoretic stuff, can't we? Come on, we need to know what the argument is before we get into theoretical stuff.
No, but what?
Come on.
No, but you already said what it was. They were basically saying that Aquium is an element on its
Hey,
own.
vegan.
Can y'all hear
That
me?
was the argument.
Hello.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Just to play devil's advocate here about the water thing, I think he's kind of saying it in a weird way. I think he's just against the idea of atoms because if you look into the depth of atoms, it's kind of sketchy. It's basically promoting materialism, and it abolishes the idea of an ether existing. And as flat earthers,
Why?
So do you watch Theora A? What's that channel called? Hold on.
I can pretty much say no.
Okay, so basically, how the atom was constructed. There are several models of the atom. There was the pudding model, there was the Bohr's model, and there's a few other models of the atom. And they basically deduce what the atom is made of by the interactions of.
Yeah, that is how chemistry has been, how it has evolved.
Right. See, but the atom is basically 99% empty space. So when you guys allude to things like the proton and the neutron.
Yeah, but that is submolecular. That's not chemistry. Chemistry ends where basically the atoms are left. And yeah, then you get in how that is supposed to basically work beyond that. But that part is theoretical. Indeed, they say, oh, it's mostly vacuum. That is purely theoretical. But the basic functions of chemistry and how all the atoms and molecules and all these things respond and interact and how they redivide, how they react with each other, that is extremely detailed and calculable with weight ratios, everything. It is so well defined. It is absolutely functional and true and repeatable in every sense. It is a reliable source of knowledge that has been almost completed in every sense.
Well,
but what molecules actually are, what the atoms really are beyond the atom itself, then things get complicated because that is more theoretical.
Well, I mean, I agree that we deduced a lot of things based on their interactions, but I think if you believe in the ether, you kind of have to believe in a different idea of an atom. To me, it would be atoms are just a propagation of the ether. We're not actually seeing like a little small particle, proton and neutron, because like if you go to look for these things, like if you try to magnify these things, like I said, an atom is 99% empty space. So where are the protons and neutrons? We just postulate how they interact, and we postulate that they're there.
Yeah, but that's what I said. That is what they theorize about how they are supposed to function. And we have no absolute confirmation of that because we can't visualize things beyond the atomic scale. It's impossible to visually map out or perceive. You can only theorize about it.
Right. So I'm just playing devil's advocate here because I mean, I'm not really sure what he exactly believes, but I'm pretty sure he's just against the idea of the structure of the atom actually being like a physical particle, like a proton and a neutron. And if that's what he's saying, then I can respect that.
Yeah, me too. I've also entertained that concept, but that doesn't mean that the detailed and well-defined lore of chemistry is incorrect. And to then propose suddenly that water is supposedly not a molecule, but an atom on its own is just preposterous.
Water's elemental, Arwen.
No, it's a molecule.
Well, I
It's a
mean,
very unique molecule that has unique properties
right,
within the entirety of chemistry.
right. But suddenly
That-
they're telling the truth about water, but we found out that they've lied to us about everything else. I mean, it's one thing to get stuck on flat and stationary Earth, but if we don't sort of start thinking about the confines, what lies beyond, what the whole system is constructed of, then we're only half the story or less, you know. So we have to delve into these things, and we have to question even especially the very most basic of ideas, strip them naked, and see where we come out of them. You know, I was just going to say that.
Sure we do. I did chemistry, and I worked out what water is. I could prove that when you split it apart with electricity, that it doesn't just become water gas. It becomes a separate gas that does not stick. It does not condense or anything. It's two separate gases, and that when you reunite them, and yeah, in a careful way, then
What
it will become
experiment? Did you
water
do?
again.
What experiment did you do?
Basically, you use electrodes to basically split apart the the water into hydrogen and oxygen.
How
And
did you deduce that they were split?
You're adding something.
Hmm?
You're adding something to break it down. I mean, again, water.
electricity is introduced.
So
And
what
then-
is electricity then? You know, this is the next question. And this is what I mean when I talk about the confines, Arwen. If we are under some sort of a separation barrier between us and whatever lies beyond, which I hold is saline waters. This is why when the barriers collapsed, we had an inundation of the ocean, the saline water. So yeah, if this is a fundamental, elemental thing in itself, you know, well, we need to know these things, or we certainly need to investigate these things. I'll just say to Anthony as well. I mean,
yeah, we do, but we know it's not. It's
yeah,
a molecule.
we don't know these things.
Yeah, we do know these things.
Don't know these.
Yeah, we do know. It's chemistry. It's extremely well
Right,
defined
right.
over the centuries. It is
Right.
one of the most reliable lores that humanity has managed to gather in the
Right.
last 200 years at
Well,
I'd
least.
like to say something real quick. Hold on.
We
I'm
also
not
know, we also
necessarily
know
just
the Earth is a spinning sphere, right? This is
I'm
No,
not.
no, that's another department. That is
Uh,
the astronomy department. That is the cosmogony. Those are the Jesuits. Chemistry, everyone can learn chemistry.
Okay,
Everyone has always been allowed to learn chemistry
can you just
because it is very well defined. There's not necessarily any secrets there that could be extremely useful or hidden that need to be hidden to gain control over everything. I'm
Wow.
not saying that there's not any inventions, because there's still the nuclear physics, for example, which kind of borders it, and that is a weirder department where there are some uncertainties.
go on,
And
vegan.
of course, the quantum physics. But physics, the basics of physics are extremely well defined
Mm.
in
Go on,
every
vegan.
detail.
Go on, vegan.
Okay, so I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, Aaron, but you're basically saying we know how it works, therefore it exists. So that argument can be used for the bending of space time, because we know how things fall to the ground. We know how the planetary system works. It works, so therefore gravity is really a bending of space time.
No.
So I mean, I'm not. So that's
That's a
I
presupposition.
no, I agree with you.
Arwen, you've just had a 2 or 3 minute long waffle saying the same exact thing 3 times. He's got about halfway through his sentence and you're interrupting him already. Can't you just let him get a point through?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, but I'm saying that argument is basically could be used for gravity too. But I'm interested in your experiment because you said that you separated water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. Obviously, you didn't just throw a probe in some water and say you separated it. So I'm curious to how did you know that you separated hydrogen and oxygen? Like what observations did you deduce to draw those conclusions?
Okay, well, they introduced the metal rods. I think there are 2 different types. I don't know exactly. It's pretty easily.
Cathode and an anode.
Yeah, exactly. And they started to basically dissolve the water, or evaporate the water into a gas that would bubble around the rods, around one of the rods, and the water would basically disappear within the container. It would just dissolve into those gases. And that is what you got to see then.
Did you see the remnants of like water vapor, like
No, nothing.
nothing?
No.
Um,
Eventually, there would be as good as nothing left. Yeah, you can't dissolve the entire thing, because yeah, eventually if you leave the thing, yeah, they only dissolved part of the water basically, but a
so,
great deal, and the rest became gas, perfectly transparent gas.
but how you're describing it, you're describing it that you basically separated oxygen and hydrogen. You could have just converted water into water vapor in
No,
that instant.
water vapor has different properties.
Okay,
Water
okay.
vapor condenses, especially to a glass surface. If the temperature is different on the outside and the inside, all that kind of thing. The glass was pretty cold at that time. He specifically did it for that reason. There was
Hello.
temperature control.
Hey,
And yeah,
Jimbo.
if there was water vapor inside of that tube, then water droplets would start to form at on the glass. That is how water vapor works. When it is confronted with a cooling surface, then it will condense into water once again. So
So
there's
so
no heating of the water inside. It was a perfectly confined space. So
so when the water was I guess dissolving, are you saying that it was in a container or it was just allowed to
yes,
dissolve in the open air?
no, they
Okay.
put it in a glass container. There was an opener to it, but it's very simple. It was basically closed off, and if yeah, if the water was actually boiling, which looks very different, the gas droplets are very small in relation to the typical water bubbles of boiling. It looks very different. But also, when you boil water, then there is a great pressure increase, and that doesn't seem to happen as much when you split the water apart into hydrogen and oxygen.
Okay. Do you remember what this experiment was called by any chance?
No,
Electrolysis.
yeah,
Electrolysis of
electrolysis.
water.
I know it in Dutch, but my
Yeah,
chemistry
that's
knowledge
right.
in English is not that great. There's a
See, I
lot of
think
different words for different molecules in English. It's
So
very
sorry
confusing.
to interrupt, guys. I've specifically asked Jimbo to join to talk about this subject. So if you can you just? I'd just like to hear his opinions on it, hopefully without too much interruption.
Well, if I can chime in on this one, water, okay, it has many different properties and states. When it freezes into ice, it expands.
Mhm.
As water itself, as a liquid, it's
Morning, guys.
mobile. Now,
You guys
we
holding?
call it H2O, when in fact, it can't really exist as H2O, as a liquid, as a fluid, as matter. In chemistry, we have to represent it as 2H2O, It's a mobile fluid with an ionic connection between other like elements, if you will. Water as a liquid, as a fluid, is not H2O. It's actually H2O with 7% free hydronium and free hydroxyl ion. So as free radicals, they are not
Hey,
water.
Ranty.
So 7% of all water is free radical.
Huh.
Okay.
Water is the universal solvent on this plane. Even diamond will dissolve in water. Gold will dissolve in enough water with enough time. Water, even in the air, okay, as it works with, well, the energy, the electricity, whatever that it contains, it interacts with the system, part of the quote hydrologic system. So if 7% of the hydrologic system is really radicals and not water, then we really, just to say everything is in a ballpark covered under that one word, water, and it's just that liquid that does what it does and we can ignore it, that's enough information on it. If we put a little acid in it and some electrodes and electrolyze it, we get these two gases because we provide it with a little bit of energy that allows it to separate into its components, you know. But the point is that it is not just water in quotations. It's a very special substance that works not just as a fluid that we have boats on, fish in, etc. It evaporates up into the air. These free radicals are up in the air with it. They help to conduct the lightning, produce the energy for the lightning, and the whole system of things is contingent on the ability of this substance to exchange energy and heat. Now, in physics, evaporation causes cooling. When the air and water heat up, molecules go up into the air for whatever reason and cool off. Evaporation causes cooling. Now, we have all these myths, and I'm going to kick one in the teeth right now. The moonlight is cooling. Well, everyone says, oh, I stand in the moonlight and measure the temperature, and then I go in the shade and it's warmer. Well, when you're in an open space, there's more evaporation. When you're under the trees, it's like being under a blanket. See, when you pull a blanket over you, the blanket has no heat. It can't keep you warm. So what's it doing? Why do you perceive that you're warm under a blanket?
An insulator.
It reduces the evaporation from your skin. Evaporation causes cooling. So, you know, to say water is just water is not doing it justice and not doing science justice, because that's where science and investigation and experiment expand our knowledge. To say, oh, we know what water is. I put some in 2 tubes and put electricity through it, and it's over. It's a done deal. Wow, if that's science, I'm gone. Because there's nothing left to talk about. Yeah.
No, I was stating that it is a molecule, that it is not a single element. And your information was extremely interesting. And I agree, water is one of the most interesting things.
7% of it is not water. You cannot call these two hydronium ion and hydroxyl ion water.
That's fine.
Separate. They are radicals. And 7% of water that we're talking about in quotations is not what we're talking about.
Sorry,
so that 7% is worth investigating.
You've used a description, Jimbo. Sorry, Arwin, just bear with me. You said 2H2OX. Well, that's completely new to me. I've never heard water ever described as that.
Well,
no, that's just my ignorance, and I admit that.
A lot of things cannot exist as monoatomic elements. Hydrogen, usually we find it as H2, and not as the hydronium ion. That makes it a radical, makes it what radicals do, anything they want. You want to go on a date? Sure, I'm available. So 7% of what is in water is always free to react with something. It's stored potential energy, if you will. But in any case, that 7% of what's in any body of water is not water. It's free radicals. So it acts and behaves and has no right to be called water.
Well, can I just clarify what the claim?
I would like to respond to this because keep it short. What the suggestion, the experiment, basically of splitting the water apart, was only to emphasize that it is not a singular element, that it is in fact a molecule, and there may be more to it.
Yeah,
that was the only thing I wanted to. That's why I said what I said, and your story is extremely fascinating, and there is so much about water. How about the emoto intention memory function of water? There's so much with water. It's
fatty
incredibly
acids
interesting.
have memory. You know, it's just.
Can I just clarify something?
Believe what has memory.
James, can I just clarify something? What you said was brilliant, right? And I don't think that's the point of what he's saying. I think the point, and I might be wrong, but I think the point of what he's saying is that water in its base form is an element. It doesn't have hydrogen or oxygen in it. That's what I think he's saying.
And that what I was trying to refute. That's all.
Yeah, there's something about its mobility as a liquid and stuff. Here's a funny thing about water. It's like 1 cc of pure water, well, 7 drops of water, pure water at room temperature at sea level is a cc, 1 cubic centimeter. You know, it's a strange equivalence. But the again, water, it has a mobility, and as quote H2O, say we take water at room temperature and stick it in the microwave. Before we turn on the microwave, there's about 108 degrees of angle between the 2 hydrogen and the oxygen. Okay, and again, these are ionic; they're not always full bonds. Now, as it heats up, that angle increases towards the 180. Okay, once it gets heated or, you know, excited beyond that, well, you start to get separation where H2 will form and O2 will form. H2 being lighter, it'll rise, and the O2 being, well, a heavier gas, it'll sink basically. If you take drops of water and run them down a red hot pipe slowly, hydrogen will pour out the top and oxygen will pour out the bottom. Just that red heat will ionize, or, you know, dissociate the water into its elements. So it doesn't have to be.
It's fascinating. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So to be concise then, what Jimbo's saying is that Sheeps and Neeps is wrong, and that water does definitely consist of the hydrogen and oxygen consistent components. Is that right, Jimbo?
In a loose bond. Actually, speaking in technical terms, okay, oxygen itself is a metal. Hydrogen is an acid. The free hydronium is the acid, like in sulfuric acid or acetic acid or any acid. The acid is just free hydrogen. So water technically represents 7% free hydrogen. That same 7% is neutralized by the 7% free hydronium.
Right.
But
well, what you're saying is basically yes, but there is even more to it.
Oh, yeah, there are university stacks that are full of volumes just on water. I think Scientific American has done over 200 articles on water. It's just an amazing subject. It just can never seem to end. We can't find out enough about different properties, and it's like one of those Pandora's boxes. So,
or you're being challenged from the chat. You're being challenged.
It's very
Jimbo.
important. I believe myself that somehow the sun is part of the hydrologic system. Somehow.
Bob in the chat
all this
says,
energy and transfer.
Bob Senior in the chat says hydrogen is not acid.
It is acidic. It is not a acid. It is acidic. So, as our rave said right after, if you dissolve hydrogen in a water, it will become acidic. And he's correct.
Or
because
even
it is acidic. That is it.
You pump carbon dioxide into water, it'll become carbonic acid. It'll shift the equilibrium of the water and have it react acid. If you put a litmus paper in it, after you pass, you know, carbon dioxide in water, it's acidic. Acid is just free hydronium. That's why they call it perhydronium. That's what you're measuring in your swimming pools and your water tanks, anything. It's the amount of free hydrogen. You know, you want it as close to 7 for drinking water, or just above in the alkaline a bit. You don't want to drink acid water, you know, but it's just that free hydrogen. If
you got the
there's
same
too much of it,
you got the same now for
burns.
Oxygen. So oxygen is not a metal.
Yeah,
So-
that is correct.
Oxygen is a metal. I beg to differ. When you freeze it and make it a solid, it's silver. It looks like the metal silver, and it conducts electricity. It's just that in the state that we breathe it as a superfluid, it's a gas. That's all. It's like water vapor. It's a superfluid as a. You
You're
know,
saying it is a metallic.
100%. Well, it has all the properties of a metal when we solidify it. All of them.
Yeah, interesting. I've never never thought of it like that. But yeah, you may be right. Maybe
So,
it is just a gaseous form of metal.
Yeah, water in chemical terms is a metal hydride. It's a reducing agent.
Sorry, vegan. Can you just verbalize what you just typed in the chat?
Another interesting thing I saw about water is that it is less dense, or no, water is more dense than ice, and that actually it doesn't invalidate the density equation, but it doesn't make sense with the density equation because ice takes up less volume and thereby should be more dense than water. And scientists don't even really have an explanation for this.
Well, you gotta like the devil's in the detail. There is a difference between density and volumic mass. I can take styrofoam and measure a certain volume of it and get its specific volume at that size, but it's compressible.
Right.
And I can change its density. Same with cork. Same with a few other products. Wood, some woods compress them. So some matter you can change the density. But something like water does not compress. It has a volumic mass at fresh water that stays the same. At 72 degrees, fresh water at sea level will always have the same volume, 1 cc of it, same mass or volume. So there's a very important distinction between the volumic mass and density. Also, weight and mass. Now, those are always mixed up. If you want to lose weight, like I say, go to the moon, you'll weigh 1/6. Your mass stays the same. So until people really stop mixing the two together and separating mass and weight as notions, then this goes nowhere. If you want to lose weight, go to the moon. If you want to be thinner and haul around less mass, lose mass. Weight Watchers don't work. You can't lose weight. If you want to lose weight, go to the moon.
Yeah, I don't think that terminology is scientific. Really, it's just.
Well,
saying.
if like even Wiki will tell you that density and specific volumic mass are different. Even the Wiki will tell you. For decades, they've been trying to get people straight on that, and no one listens. Density. Densify, this is more dense, this is less dense. Density screws up. It's the volumic mass. Displacement of things, it's volumic mass. Density, only a few products have changes in density that we can do. Anything that does not compress, you can't change its density.
Wait, so are you saying water can't compress?
And fluids normally do not compress. That's why you use brake fluids, peanut oil or whatever.
Hydraulics. It is extremely
hydraulics.
Reliable because water in fluidic state cannot be compressed. It will crack through
steel or anything.
through rock, through steel, because it is incompressible. You can't squeeze it. Basically.
More dense. Yeah, more.
It's incredible. That is why hydraulics are called hydraulics. That is why huge, extremely heavy equipment uses hydraulics. Because water is up to the task of basically not getting compressed through the weight.
Well, how always thought
in brake systems or anything, you know.
Well, how I always thought it was like when you compress water, you're just changing it to ice.
But ice
no,
expands.
You cool it. Evaporation causes cooling. Absence of heat is cold.
But if you lower the volume, aren't you also lowering the kinetic energy? Therefore, it will cool down.
Well, it's like a desert refrigerator. It's water evaporating. As water evaporates, it takes away heat. So the volume you'll have less if it's from an area of water, you know. But all they do is dig a hole, put an earthen vessel in it, and cover it with a thick mat, and keep the mat moist. As the water evaporates from the mat, it takes away the heat from below.
Oh, hold on. I'm kind of confused. So let's say like I have a huge room that's let's say it's not huge. Just say I have a box that's 10 by 10, right? Atoms are just flocking around. So the kinetic energy is going to be, let's say, X, right? And then I compress the box to 5 by 5. Now the atoms have less space. So would that not take away the some kinetic energy in that box because there's less space to travel around?
It would add heat. Compression adds heat.
So how I understand heat is basically an increase of kinetic energy. But if you reduce the space, are you not?
I don't know. No, I don't think anyone really understands either heat or cold. There are hundreds of equations and hundreds of theories. So I can't get. I know basically how we sense heat and how we sense cold. When something makes our nerve endings send a signal inward, we feel heat burning. If heat leaves our body, it's like a signal leaving, kind of. It registers different. We feel cold or cool.
I beg to differ. There are very.
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you hated the show, you know exactly what to do. But if you liked the show, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you have not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!